Record reflect it's a regular business meeting, and the date is July 5th, 2016, and the time is 6:30 p.m. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please join me? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Clerk, could you do roll call, please?
Hanson.
Here.
Henry.
Here.
Shumway. Absent. Schuster.
Here.
Somerville.
Here.
Vitale.
I'm here.
Weaver.
Here.
Pierce.
Here.
Do I get
Lekus.
Here.
That is 8 present and 1 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a proclamation, and this proclamation has to do with recognition of Leadership Laramie Class of 2016, and it reads as follows. Whereas Leadership Laramie, whose goal is to encourage and help prepare citizens of Albany County to take positions of leadership within the community, approach the City of Laramie for a partnership on a community improvement project. And whereas the Parks and Recreation Department and the Recreation Advisory Board have approved the Leadership Laramie's concept of a wayfinding structure. And whereas Leadership Laramie has put in considerable time and effort for the planning of this project, which will benefit Whereas Leadership Laramie has put in a considerable amount of time and effort in the planning of this project, which will benefit the citizens and visitors of our community, and whereas the community service projects planned and completed by Leadership Laramie are recognized as an important and beneficial to the city. Now therefore, I, David A. Polikas, Mayor and President of the City Council, do hereby proclaim our sincere thanks to the Leadership Laramie Class of 2016 for their efforts to design and install a wayfinding structure at Boswell Drive and 3rd Street. And I know we have a representative here from Leadership Laramie. I believe it's Mr. Richards. And I would ask him to come up, and we've got another person here. And I would ask him to come up and accept this proclamation. And thank you very much for being here and doing what you're doing. And if you'd like to say a few words to the community, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Dustin Richards, and I'm a member of this year's Leadership Laramie class, and I just want to thank the City Council and the members of the community for helping us. And it's a great program. I've been happy to be part of that, and I'm looking forward to the sign project. I don't know if you've seen the mock-ups or anything, but what we're hopefully doing is putting in one as a test to see how it works, and if we can, we'd like to expand it across town, and hopefully we can scale it that way. So we're trying to design that with that in mind, that this could be an ongoing and more expansive project. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is a public hearing. This public hearing has to do with the original ordinance number 1947, vacating a alley right-of-way located within Block 46 within the Downey addition. And I would ask the city clerk to read the notice.
The City Council will hold the following public hearing at 6:30 p.m. on July 5, 2016 in the City Council Chambers, Laramie City Hall, 406 Ivinson Avenue, Laramie, Wyoming, to take public comments on the following. An ordinance submitted by JS Building Company, LLC, requesting vacation of an alley within Block 46 Downey Addition, VAC-16-01. All applications, plans, and specifications relative to these matters are available for review at the City of Laramie Community Development Department at 405 Grand Avenue, Laramie, Wyoming. Anyone wishing to be heard should be present or may be represented by his or her agent at the meeting.
Thank you. Is there anyone here tonight that wishes to speak on behalf of this public hearing? Okay, seeing none, I'll move on to the next public hearing. This is a public hearing that has to do with another alley vacation of another alley right-of-way within Block 1 of the University Plaza addition, and I would ask the clerk to read this notice.
The City of Laramie will hold the following public hearing at 6:30 PM on July 5, 2016, in the City Council Chambers, Laramie City Hall, 406 Ivinson Avenue, Laramie, Wyoming, to take comments on the following. An ordinance submitted by the trustees of the University of Wyoming requesting vacation of an alley within Block 1, University Place addition, VAC-16-02. All applications, plans, and specifications relative to these matters are available for review at the City of Laramie Community Development Department at 405 Grand Avenue, Laramie, Wyoming. Anyone wishing to be heard should be present or may be represented by his or her agent at the meeting.
Thank you. Is there anyone here tonight to speak to this public hearing? All right, seeing none, I'll move on to the next public hearing. This is a public hearing which has to do with the proposed amending of the landscape requirements, and I would ask the city clerk to read the notice.
The City Council will hold the following public hearing at 6:30 PM on July 5, 2016, in the City Council Chambers, Laramie City Hall, 406 Ivinson Avenue, Laramie, Wyoming, to take public comments on the following. An ordinance submitted by the City of Laramie requesting amendments to Laramie Municipal Code 15.14.050 landscaping, TA-16-05. All applications, plans, and specifications relative to these matters are available for review at the City of Laramie Community Development Department at 405 Grand Avenue, Laramie, Wyoming. Anyone wishing to be heard should be present or may be represented by his or her agent at the meeting.
Thank you. Is there anyone here to address the council on this item during the public hearing? Okay, seeing none, we'll close this public hearing and move on to the next item on the agenda, which is announcements. City Manager, do we have any announcements?
We do not.
Thank you. Item number 5, I'll turn it over to the Vice Mayor.
Okay, I move that the following change to the agenda be approved. We have one change on the consent agenda. We are moving item 8C, titled Vouchers. We're moving it to the regular agenda, and it's going to be new item number 11A.
Second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second by Councilor Somerville. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Is there any opposed? That motion carries. Vice Mayor?
I move that the agenda be set as changed.
Second.
Thank you. Once again, there's a motion and a second by Councilor Somerville. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Vice Mayor?
I move that the consent agenda be approved and that each specific action on the consent agenda be approved as indicated.
Second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second by Councilor Somerville. City Clerk, could you do roll call, please?
Hanson.
Yes.
Henry.
Yes.
Shumway, absent. Schuster.
Yes.
Somerville.
Yes.
Vitale.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Kalikas.
Yes.
That's 8 yeses, 0 noes, and 1 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you. That motion carries. And we're on to the regular agenda. And I've got to get my list of who's introducing the first item.
What do we have to do, disclosures?
Oh, let's go.
Counselor Schuster.
Next item is item number 6, disclosure by council members. Are there, are there any members of the council that have any conflicts of interest in the items we'll be discussing tonight?
I do. Item 12 goes directly to my mom, so I will recuse myself on item 12 because it is a family issue. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we move on to
The regular agenda.
the regular agenda.
When we get to the items.
Schuster.
And item number 10, Councilor Schuster.
Thank you. The title of this is Coal Creek Tap Alcohol Serving Area Expansion. I recommend that the city council approve the addition of an enclosed outdoor patio alcohol serving area along the north side of the building to Coal Creek Tap, microbrewery license number M7.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
The second by Councilor Vitale. City Clerk?
Yes, Your Honor. Coal Creek Tap has applied to, is requesting your permission to expand their serving area to an outdoor patio adjacent to their building along the north side. They have received the proper permits from engineering to do so, to add that area within the right-of-way. This application has gone in front of the Liquor Division, and the Liquor Division sees no issue with the addition of this serving area. The applicant is here if you have any further questions for him.
Thank you. Questions by council? Councilor Vitale.
Just a couple of comments. I think this concept is probably 20 years late, and it's welcome to see. I think you get to a lot of cities, old ones, new ones, and whatever. Their downtown is vibrant because people have a variety of dining and I'll say drinking opportunities outside and good weather. The only thing that comes to my mind, looking at the width of the sidewalk in front of the facility, there obviously is enough room for their dining area with the fencing, and from there to the curb, there seems to be sufficient area for a person with 4 dogs walking abreast to get down the sidewalk. Maybe that's a poor analogy. But the other concern I would have, is there a distance regulation from the fence to the curb and the rest of the downtown that may restrict other food and beverage people from being able to do this, or is there somewhere in our rules that they would also have the same benefit? I would hate to see somebody be denied this opportunity because maybe there's a foot less or something, and I don't know what the code is on that. Maybe Charles could help us or somebody.
Senior Planner Bloom, do you have an answer to that, or would you like to hand it off to someone else?
Honorable Mayor and City Council, this is technically the engineering department's items there. When it comes to accessibility on the sidewalks around different patio tables, those types of items, it really all depends on the width, just to make sure that we preserve an ADA accessible route. From what I believe, the ADA accessible route is actually a 36-inch wide walkway. So a lot of our downtown locations would be able to have that ability. In different areas where you might have a more narrow right-of-way, which I think, I can't find one that would really jump up and down, there would be a problem there. But those areas right now don't have outdoor seating.
I do remember in the past, there have been requests for people on special occasions to do that, and were denied because we never had the right rules or whatever in place. So I think that's a welcome. I hope it's a precedent-setting situation and open up some more opportunities and experiences for people that are shopping downtown or coming for special events.
Councilor Hanson?
Thank you, Your Honor. I looked at the map that is being supplied to us, and I noticed that the area to be fenced in is about 4.5 feet, 4.5 feet wide. And the next thing I noticed, I don't know, there's a fence supposed to be built. Is that going to be a stationary fence, or is it going to be a fence that is movable? That was unclear to me. Furthermore, I didn't see where the waiter, or even for that matter, the customers would enter this area, because the fence seems to go all around it. Is that just an oversight in the drawing? And that's the one thing I noticed. The other thing I noticed is that the width, 4.5 feet, with tables and chairs. Boy, I don't envy those waiters to have to wait on those tables. That's going to be awfully tight there, isn't it? Well, you're here to talk about this.
Hello, Mr. Mayor. Councilors. I'm John Guerin. I live at 803 Fremont. I'll try to address these questions for
Yes,
you. Should I
please.
get a little closer? I'm looking for some direction from city staff on how we should exactly put the fence in, because this hasn't been done in the downtown quite like this. So I've talked with both the city clerk's office and the engineering office, and we're working on a concise plan that will accommodate everybody's concerns that way. Regarding Councilor Vitale's comment about, or question about the, how much room we have to leave in the right-of-way, 3 feet is exact. On ours, from the building to the curb is 12 feet. So there's plenty. We do have a lamp pole, one of those vintage light poles, and so I need to be considerate of that particular spot. So we might try to put an entryway into the fenced area right there. I'm going to try and leave as much room as possible and still have it to where folks can get served, perhaps from the outside. I'm not really sure. Again, this hasn't been done yet in our community, so I'm working with the two agencies that have the say on that.
Well, you can't really serve it from the outside because you're serving alcohol, right? Because then you would be outside your permitted area. You'd have to, that's what I'm concerned about, you know, how I think it's, you gave yourself too little room with 4.5 feet. I think you should give yourself a little more room there. You have 12 feet to operate with, and all you need is, what do I understand, 6 feet or something like that?
Technically, I suppose we have 9 feet to deal with.
Yeah.
So, and as I said, I'm working with the city departments that will, you know, that have the code in mind and whatnot, and so we'll dial it in to their specifications.
And how do people get into this area? Because your fence seems to be all around it.
Right, we'll have entryways that
You
are
have an entry.
designated for that, right.
As I said, we have bays, right? Okay, thank you.
Certainly, thank you.
City Clerk, do you have anything to add to this at all?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Vitale?
Just to address Councilman Hanson's concern, I think in the proposal, part of the approval is that they're extending their tap room to the edge of that fence.
That's
So
right.
that whole area would become part of that tap room, which allow them to serve food and beverage.
But you couldn't serve from the outside of the fence.
No, they'd have to come in from,
We've got a discussion going back and forth here, which probably isn't the best way to do it.
better not do that.
Thank you.
Schuster?
I listened to it, and yes, everybody's saying he could move out further, but he made the statement showing how tough it would be. He says, we have a vintage light pole on there. So I imagine the base of that is probably almost 2 foot. It might be 2 foot back from the curb. So now all of a sudden you have a 4-foot spot, and you still have to have your 36 inches on the other side. So right there, if my guess on my measurements on there, that means that all of a sudden you must be 7 foot away from the curb. So his explanation of it is quite exact, that to get all this in, you have to be this close to the building because of that one light pole. If the light pole wasn't in front of it, then all of a sudden he could have easily gained 1 more foot to it. So having that light pole there is a hazard. How's that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Would anyone from the public wish to address council on this? City Clerk, could you do roll call, please?
Hanson,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
Shumway, absent. Schuster,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Vitale,
Yes,
Pierce,
Yes.
Polikis.
Yes.
That's 8 yeses, 0 nos, and 1 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you. That motion carries. On to item number 11, Councilor Schuster.
Okay, the last one was in front of the microbrewery. Now we're gonna move to the next building over. It's gonna sound very, very similar, but we'll go it this way now. I ask that the city council approve the addition of an enclosure outdoor patio alcohol serving area along the north side of the building to Coal Creek Coffee Restaurant License number R29. So it sounds exactly the same, but it's next building over.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Weaver. Let me go to the city clerk. Do you have anything?
Your Honor, this is the same situation as the previous one. As Counselor Schuster mentioned, it is in the adjacent property. It will be the identical setup, the
Thank
same
you.
idea.
And it sounds like the applicant may have something to add?
I just thought I'd add, originally, we thought we would just do this in front of the brewery because we've had requests over the 3 years that we've been open now, and I thought, well, if we do that, and somebody wants to sit in front of the coffee house and have a glass of wine, and we tell them no, that's probably not gonna be real user-friendly, and so that's why we're doing this. And the vintage light fixture that we spoke about is actually, it's about 4 feet to the west. It's actually in front of the coffee house, not in front of the brewery. The brewery's free and clear, but, so the plan now is to kind of combine the patio area, so I just thought I'd clarify.
Thank you.
Sure.
Questions, comments from the council? Councilor Henry?
I think it's a great idea. I agree with Councilor Vitale. It's
I do too. I'm
All
thrilled
other
that
cities
it's
do it.
looking pretty positive here, so
Yeah.
thank you all.
good.
Anything else from council? Anyone from the public wish to comment? City clerk, would you do roll call, please?
Schuster,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Vitale,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
Shumway, absent, Pierce,
Yes.
Polikis.
Yes.
That's 8 yeses, 0 nos, and
Point
1
of
absent,
order.
Your Honor.
Yeah, thank you, Counselor Somerville.
I don't think that Counselor Weaver has gotten to vote on the last couple.
The last 3 items,
Oh
but
my
my
goodness.
votes would have been yes, yes, and yes.
Yes,
I
yes, it is.
apologize, Counselor Weaver, you were left off of my tally sheet.
I'm already gone.
First you,
Does
then
this
me.
mean we have to start the meeting all
No, I
over
don't
again?
It's possible you're not here by now.
Councilor Weaver, of any of the past items, would you have voted no on?
I would not have voted no on any of the past 3 items,
So
Your Honor.
we'll take a yes vote on all the items that you've been left out on.
That would be accurate.
Is that sufficient with our city attorney?
Good enough for me, Your Honor.
I just wonder who erased his name.
Thank you for that point of order. All right,
He
where
just
were
looks
we?
so left out.
I think we were on roll call.
That is now 8 yeses, 0 nos, and 1 absent,
did.
Your Honor.
I don't
was
think
waiting for her
voted
to
on that
catch.
last one. Did I? Before the point of order?
I think you had.
Would you have voted yes?
All right, moving on. Thank you, that motion carries. Item number 11A, Councilor Vitale.
Okay, thank you. I move that the following resolution be adopted. Be it resolved that all vouchers approved by the Finance Committee be allowed, warrants drawn on proper city funds and payment thereof, and the vouchers be placed on file in the Treasurer's Office, subject to the public inspection. Then it goes on and on and on with some other language that do I need to read all of that into this?
I
Or
don't
can it
believe-
just be
Just read the
included?
title.
Hmm?
You can just read the title.
The title and all that, okay, very good.
Okay, so there's, the motion's by Councilor Vitale, is there a second on that motion? Is there a second on that motion?
I will second it.
Second by Councilor Schuster. I'll turn it back over to Councilor Vitale.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Where was I here? I had it marked.
So go to consent.
In the financial report tonight, there was a couple of figures that I thought really stood out and were somewhat staggering, based on past history. And this is related to the Wyoming Association of Risk Management. That's our warm liability policy. There was one premium for $183,977, and there was another one for insurance on property for $249,487.47. I'm just asking for a clarification on this, and I know I think our assistant city manager generally handles all these things, but that mayor, the city manager would like to delegate that, or do it herself, whatever. We did get, at our finance committee, Malaya Brown did go through and try and delineate these in general, but I do know, and I think, and I'll stand corrected, I think we are one of 6 or 7 cities that are part of this consortium, and premiums are predicated on, I guess, everything that's paid out. So the more that becomes paid out, the higher the premiums go. That doesn't necessarily mean we are having higher payouts or more lawsuits or this or that. That might be all, that's all part of the formula. But I just thought that when you're looking at 184 and you're looking at, well over 400 and some $1,000 of premium for our insurance. And I just thought maybe if we could get a little more description on that, if we may.
Thank you. I'm not sure who to address this. City manager?
Mayor, we'd be happy to do that, but no staff are prepared to do that because we weren't given an opportunity to prepare a response. So we could certainly submit more information. We could invite WARM to come in and do a presentation to you in August, as they've done, I think, annually for the last few years, that provides a great level of detail on these kinds of things. But no one can answer that tonight. No one has the information in front of us. We had no idea this was an issue, and Finance Committee, little more than 2 hours ago, signed off on these vouchers. So happy to do it, but can't do it on the fly.
Well, I would.
Thank you.
I'll
Councilor
yield to Councilor.
Vitale.
I'll yield to him, Councilman.
Councilor Hanson.
Your Honor, there was one statement, I think, by Ms. Brown, that this is an annual fee. It's not a monthly fee. I think we need to clarify that. So if you want to have a monthly fee, it's still not chicken feed, but what did you say, Councilor, 400,000? You'd have to divide it by 12, so it's about whatever, 30-some thousand a month. And it's assessed once a year when they have done their books and cleared what they have paid out and how much they need. Okay.
Honorable Mayor and Council, currently both premiums for property and liability are down from last year. We have no ongoing liability claims. We have no ongoing liability claims. We have no ongoing property claims. Currently, there are about 42 entities in the property pool. There's 6 entities in the liability pool. And I can't quote you how far down our premiums are, but I think between the two, it's probably between $50,000 and $70,000 less than it was last year. Based on our experience rating, we haven't had the loss history in the liability pool at all for a number of years. And then on the property side, we had the one claim about 3 years ago, but we don't have anything ongoing right now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion from council? Anyone from the public wish to comment on this? City Clerk, could you do roll call, please?
Hanson,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
Shumway, absent, Schuster,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Vitale,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Polikis.
Yes.
Gets into
That is 8 yeses, 0 noes, and 1 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you. That motion, that motion passes. On to item number 12, Councilor Henry.
Yes. I move to approve original ordinance number 1947 on second reading, vacating a 1,145.61 square foot alley right-of-way located within Block 46, Downey's Edition, based on findings of fact and conclusions of law, and note a public hearing was held on July 5th, 2016.
Second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second by the Vice Mayor. Prior to discussion, I need to
recused.
Yes, but someone has to make a motion.
Counselor
I
Somerville.
cannot do it for myself.
Can we do this motion on top of what's already been on the floor? To recuse?
For him to recuse himself?
Yeah.
Yes.
He can just recuse himself. The only time you'd have to vote on it is if anyone disagreed that he can't recuse himself, then you'd vote on it to make him stay there.
So we don't need to bring this forward at this time?
He can just recuse himself.
Okay, I said I'd be recused.
No objection.
If there's no objections, we'll move forward.
See ya. Bye.
Thank you. All right, there's been a motion and a second. The second was by the vice mayor. City staff, whoever that may be. Senior Planner Bloom.
Honorable Mayor and City Council, this is second reading of the ordinance. We haven't received any additional public comment regarding this item. We're still recommending approval, and it's still scheduled for a public hearing coming up on the 19th, or for a final reading on the 19th. I'm open for any questions you may have.
Are there any questions?
No.
Councilor Hanson?
Thank you, Your Honor. Usually we have the question as to what's underneath, what has to be relocated. Is there a lot that has to be relocated?
Honorable Mayor and Councilor Hanson, in this case, there are several utilities. There's a water line. There's some city utilities in that location. As part of this vacation, they'll propose that those remain in place. At third and final reading, there will be a quitclaim deed that will deed the property to the adjacent landowners. There will also be a utility easement that will define the easement. It'll also define responsibilities for what would occur in the event the city has to excavate or access those utilities. So that maintenance agreement will be in place at third and final reading.
Thank you, Your Honor. If I may follow up, my question is very simply, since we're not taking any money for this vacation, we're not incurring any expenses then with this vacation, are we?
Honorable Mayor and Councilor Hanson, we are not incurring any additional expenses than what we would have today to access the utilities in there. That's
Okay.
correct.
Thank you. Anyone else from council? Would anyone from the public wish to comment? City Clerk, would you do roll call, please?
Henry,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Vitale,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Shumway absent, Schuster recused, Pierce,
Yes.
Polikis.
Yes.
That is 7 yeses, 0 nos, 1 absent, and 1 recused, Your Honor.
Thank you. And that motion carries. Item number 13, Councilor Somerville.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's original ordinance number 1948. I would move to approve original ordinance number 1948 on second reading, vacating a 4,224 square foot area of alley of right-of-way within Block 1, University Place addition, based on findings of fact and conclusions of law, and note a public hearing was held on July 5th, 2016.
Second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second by Councilor Schuster. City staff, Senior Planner Bloom.
Honorable Mayor and City Council, this speech could be very similar to the last one you just heard. The third reading will be at the next regular meeting on the 19th. However, with this proposed vacation, the applicant is actually relocating all of the utilities that presently exist within the alley right-of-way. So since the utilities will be gone, there will be no need for a utility easement through that area. I'm open for any questions you may have. The applicant's representatives are here as well.
Thank you. Councilor Henry?
Has there been a change in that one property that hadn't been purchased by the university?
Honorable Mayor and Councilor Henry, I defer that to the applicant's representative here.
We can bring them up. Other questions for staff? Then why don't I, at this time, ask, I know there's a representative from the university here, and we had a question for the applicant, so if I'd ask you to come forward. Mr. Collins. And did you hear that question?
I did, Your Honor. Good evening. Mark Collins, University of Wyoming Administration. Good evening, council members, mayor, council members in attendance tonight. We have been successful in negotiating with the property owner on Lewis Street, and we have not confirmed a contract, but we are in very firm negotiations at this point, and we are extremely optimistic. And as I mentioned the last time, Mayor and council members, if for some reason we are not able to authorize this particular transaction, then we are prepared to go ahead and have an alternative methodology to go ahead and still work around that particular property for the building project. But I will tell you tonight that we are extremely optimistic. We've had good discussions and negotiations, in fact, even since the time I last spoke with you, and we are extremely optimistic that that's going to be accomplished.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant while we have him up here?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Any comments from council? Anyone from the public wish to speak? City Clerk, would you do roll call, please?
Somerville,
Yes.
Vitale,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Shumway, absent, Henry,
No.
Hanson,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Fleekus.
Yes.
That is 7 yeses, 1 no, and 1 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you. That motion carries. Item number 14, Councilor Weaver.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm having some issues with my internet connection, so you'll have to
here.
give me a second to borrow from another council member.
Oh, 14.
Number 14. I apologize, Your Honor.
You need it?
Your Honor, I would move now to approve original ordinance number 1950 to delete section 10.24.030H of the Laramie Municipal Code. First reading.
Second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second by Councilor Henry. City Attorney.
Mayor and council, City Council enacted this in 2010. It created a mandatory minimum jail sentence for those convicted of a DUI whose blood alcohol was over 0.15. The Supreme Court, this was challenged recently by a local attorney. The Supreme Court struck it down, said that it needs to be more or less the same as the state's law. So deleting this one section will, in fact, make it the same as the state law, almost verbatim. So this was the only section in the DUI laws that was different than the state. So we're recommending that you delete this section and just move on.
Thank you. Councilor Weaver?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just would note that, of course, the city has to have its ordinances in line with state law, and we will. But I did think it was interesting when I read some information provided by city staff regarding this matter, the number of DUIs where the individuals arrested in those DUIs had blood alcohol almost double the legal limit in this community. It was an excessive number, and I think the city's efforts towards that end were to try to discourage that type of behavior. I think that was what the motivating factor behind that was. Again, we're going to have our local ordinances in compliance with state law, but I don't think it came from a place of wanting to be punitive for the sake of being punitive. I think the community saw an issue and a need, but we'll take this corrective action to be in line with state statutes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Hanson.
Thank you, Your Honor. Several years ago, we dealt with the liquor law on this, at this dais, and there was the issue of asking the question whether we could be more restrictive than the state law. It was the matter of, for example, closing hours. You know, the official set closing hour, I think, is whatever, 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. And we asked whether if we set it at 1 o'clock, is that permissible, rather than 3 o'clock, which of course is more liberal than the state law, which is not permissible. And we were told at the time that anytime you are more restrictive than the state law, that is permissible. That was the way it was ruled at the time. This is, in my mind, a very similar issue. We are trying to be more restrictive than the state law, and all of a sudden the Supreme Court rules that this is not permissible. We have to be in conformance with the state law. So I question the judicious or judicial decision of the Supreme Court here, because I think it has ruled one way in the case of the liquor laws, and in this case it rules differently, because it's not a matter of trying to be more permissible or more permissive in our law, but be more restrictive. And I thought that was permissible. For this reason, I personally will not vote for this change, but simply say, let the Supreme Court clarify this matter as to restrictiveness versus liberality on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Schuster.
I will vote for this just because, by advice of attorneys and everything else, we need to get this passed and going, because right now, any case that is on this can be held up. On the property that we just got done with on this alley vacation, we have had 2 excessively drunk people that one of them passed out on the overpass, and they figured was doing 90 mile an hour and missed the corner and took out some of the barriers at Northridge Liquors and ended up inside of our building. And then we had another one that missed the corner again at 4th and Reynolds and rolled their vehicle into the parking lot. And both of them were extreme alcoholic conditions, over 2.6, which is not quite double, but they were basically passed out. And I don't know how we need to do this, but there does need to be a bigger penalty. You can't physically control a vehicle. You can't do it. And I don't know what it is, but we may have to go back to them for something, but they've said that this is the way it's going to be, so this is the way it's going to be, because I hate to say whether it's the state of Wyoming Supreme Court or the Supreme Court for the United States, you don't always agree with them, but you don't have much choice either. Thank you.
Thank you. City Attorney Luce, is there anything you'd like to add?
Mayor,
to
Council,
these
I can
comments?
clarify this a little bit. So in this particular case, the Supreme Court focused on the legislation, the state legislation, which specifically says, I'm going off the top of my head here, but it says that the purpose of having a traffic code for the state is to create uniform traffic laws throughout the state. And they found that the DUI ordinance fell under traffic laws. I would argue, I mean, I see where they're coming from, because they are in the same section, they are in the same part of the code. However, I guess I think you can make an argument that you're lumping speeding tickets in with someone driving, completely blitzed. I think there's a difference, but, so I see where the Supreme Court was coming from. As far as the standard that you can be more restrictive, that's not a uniform standard. That's something that the court, generally the court's going to look at and see what the legislature says. So if the legislature says that you can be more restrictive or implies it somehow, then they'll go with that standard. But in this case, the legislature does specifically state it's not in the DUI section necessarily, but it's in the overall traffic section. It does say that the intent is to create uniform traffic laws throughout the state. So cities can't make their own speed, their own prices for speeding tickets and things like that. They lumped DUIs in with that, unfortunately. But I would also note that the maximum sentence is still up to 6 months in jail. And our office will continue asking for jail time and if someone's blood alcohol is over a .15. The difference would be the judge wouldn't be required to follow that. So the ordinance made it a mandatory minimum, so the judge had no discretion. Now the judge will have discretion, so I'd be up to the judge if he wants to follow our prosecutor's recommendation or not. But our prosecutor will continue to recommend jail time for egregious DUIs, as I would call them.
Thank you. Councilor Hanson.
Thank you, Your Honor. Can I then ask the question, for example, in the alcohol realm, the state has declared its primacy and thereby established that they make the laws. For traffic laws, has the state really declared this primacy as well?
Supreme Court thinks so. I guess I can't really argue with that. Yeah, I mean, it does say that they wanted to create consistent laws throughout the state for traffic offenses. I'd note I just by chance happened to be looking at the liquor laws today, and it does state in there that cities can be more restrictive.
Yes.
So, I mean, it specifically gives that intent. So, you know, in Wyoming, there is no, the words home rule don't appear anywhere in statute or in constitution. It's been assumed that home rule was meant in the Constitution to some degree. I would argue not really, because their version of home rule says that whatever the legislature says cities can do is home rule. So that doesn't seem to make sense to me, but that's what home rule is in Wyoming, is whatever the legislature says cities can do.
I thought that charter cities we could, I thought.
You're limited to what the legislature restricts or empowers cities. So when the legislature is silent, that's when that's really up for debate, what the powers are. But in the two examples we have here, they do specifically state, like I said, in the traffic, that they wanted to create uniform laws, and then in the liquor laws, they do state that cities can be more restrictive in certain circumstances anyway.
Thank you. Any other comments from council? All right, anyone from the public wish to comment on this? City Clerk, could you do roll call, please?
Weaver.
Yes.
Vitale.
Yes.
Somerville.
Yes.
Schuster.
Yes.
Shumway, absent. Henry.
Yes.
Hanson.
No.
Pierce.
Yes.
Polikis.
Yes.
That's 7 yeses, 1 no, and 1 absent, Your Honor.
That motion carries. And it'll move on to second reading. Item number 15, Councilor Hanson.
Oh, my God, I'm sorry, I'm behind here.
Understand.
I would like to move to approve on first reading original ordinance number 1951, amending Title 13, Division 4, Chapter 62 of the Laramie Municipal Code to modify solid waste fees.
Second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second by Councilor Henry, and I'll move to Director Smith.
Good evening, Your Honor, and members of council. We're presenting tonight on first reading an ordinance that would establish the solid waste rates for the 2 years of the biennium, fiscal year 16-17 and 17-18. The rates are, as were presented to you on May 12th by Chris Bell and Associates. My cover sheet said the 19th, but I was a little confused, obviously. So on May 12th, Chris Bell was here of Bell and Associates, presented a PowerPoint presentation to you describing the solid waste fund and the various components of that. We did copy that PowerPoint presentation, included it in your packet as a refresher. The proposed rates would result in a revenue increase in 2017 of 9.3% and a revenue increase of 4.1% in 2018. The ordinance includes adjustments to collection, disposal, and recycling rates. And some, for example, the recycling rates haven't been adjusted since, I want to say 2011 or something like that. So it's been a while. A couple of items of note. The rates were developed based on some significant modifications to the long-range financial plan that we discussed at the work session. One, vertical expansion of stage one that also includes a water balance cover. That saves significant cost and expense to the city. It also extends the life of that out about 30 years, so that will allow us to spread that rate impact out over that period of time. The other element of the long-range financial plan that was modified and adjusted is how we will approach the next expansion of the line cell system. We would propose to construct 3 cells at once, capitalizing on the economies of scale of taking that type of approach. There again, saving a considerable amount of money. And one other item that is changing that I wanted to point out is that we propose to eliminate the differential fee between the county and city residents. As you know, the county residents up to this point had paid 125% of the normal fee. So cost, the in-city fee plus 25%. So we're proposing to eliminate that and make it one fee regardless of your residency. I think that's a goodwill gesture towards the county. It also makes it a lot easier for staff to administer at the scale house because they're not put in a position where they have to question a customer where they're coming from. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions? Councilor Hanson?
Thank you, Your Honor. I think the citizens, and we're on TV, are probably not so much interested in the percentage of increase, but the raw numbers. And I think you gave them to us. They are, I think, feasible. If you look at individual households, the current fee for all 3, collection, disposal, and recycling, I think stands at $19.02 right now. It would rise to $20.78, and then the following year to $21.64. Did I quote that correctly? Is that?
Your Honor, the Mayor, Councilmember Hanson, that is absolutely correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, I read the whole thing. Are there any other fee increases in there that I missed?
Those are the fee increases that we're proposing. So it's residential and commercial.
Yeah.
So
Well, the commercial I didn't go into because
Right.
they're different. But for the individual residents, this is for a one kitchen unit, correct?
That is correct.
And I think if you have 2 kitchens in a residence, it would simply double, I think,
Right.
in the way I understand it. But I just wanted to be sure that the residents are aware that the fees are not significantly going up. They're going up about $1.70 or $1.80, something like that, the first year, and then, as a matter of fact, $1 the second year per month, correct?
Your Honor, the Mayor, Councilmember Hanson. Yes, that's correct. In the first year of the biennium, the rate increase would result in an additional fee of $1.76.
Correct.
And the second year of the biennium, it would be 86 cents.
How much?
An additional 86 cents.
86 cents, yeah. I think it would be important for the citizens to know what's coming down the pike.
I agree.
In actual dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? And we'll go to comments. Councilor Vitale?
Yeah, I'm bothered by this 2 kitchen thing. person builds $10,000, $15,000 square foot home, has a beautiful recreation room, and in that recreation room, they have a convenient, small kitchen. You know, then they have their regular kitchen. And I can't see where that second kitchen has to pay the same rate as the first kitchen, primary kitchen. When I doubt there's one day a year when both those kitchens have the same amount of waste leaving. It just, I don't see it possible. And yet we're penalizing, again, we seem to penalize people that can increase their quality of life. It doesn't make sense to me.
Your Honor, the Mayor, and Councilmember Vitelli, I'm not extremely intimate with the billing structure and the way it's built, but the intent of this is for multi-unit homes. So for example, if you had a rental unit in the basement, you would have a separate kitchen unit there. So essentially you have a duplex, if you will.
I understand that.
And it's not intended for that home that you described that may have two kitchens in it. So we would bill that as one kitchen unit.
They would, okay.
All right. Are there any comments from council on this item?
I would like.
Councilor Schuster.
Thank you. I don't know if a lot of people know this is because we're going to build more cells. I think that a lot of this is, they're just raising the dump fees. The state has mandated that we will put a liner in there. So just like if anything else, I'm going to call it a basement, so that whatever we throw in the trash doesn't leach into the ground. We have found out that if we will build, instead of building one liner, build 3 liners, that the hauling of the large equipment there to dig the holes, to put everything in place, dramatically goes down, because there is a transportation fee for the equipment. So we're trying to take advantage of this equipment fee to dig several liners at the same time to make our, I don't like calling it a dump, I'm going to call it a refuge area, that we can bring the city refuge into this place and save ourselves more money down the road. So this won't be apparent in the next 5 years. This will be apparent in 20 years, is when the huge savings will really kick in. So I just want them to understand why we're doing what we're doing. We're not just raising the rates. We are preparing for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments by council? Councilor Hanson.
Thank you, Honor. I raised this question before, and I'm still not sure about the answer here. Building these, or digging out 3 cells, and I presume we're not using them, we're just digging 3 holes. Is there a chance of those collapsing and making our work useless because we'd have to do it over again? I'm just not sure, you know. I'm looking at a house construction. You excavate a basement and then you let it sit, not building the house. Don't you have a danger of that structure collapsing on you? How are we going to be, not absolutely, but somewhat sure that that isn't going to happen? Because my understanding is we're doing 3 cells, that'll last us, whatever, 30, 40 years. So there, at least one of those cells will sit empty for quite some time. Is that structurally a problem?
Your Honor, the Mayor and Councilmember Hanson. That's a good point, but the way we address that is we slope the excavation back, so it's not a vertical excavation like a basement foundation might be. In that situation or scenario, that certainly would be unstable, particularly over a lengthy period of time. But they're angled back at roughly a 45-degree angle, so they're very stable.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Honor.
Thank you. Director Smith, what's the timeline? We're building 3 cells. The one we have now, it sounds like it's going to last about 5 years. Do you have a timeline on these 3 cells?
Your Honor, the Mayor, yes, we would initiate construction sometime within the next 5 to 7 years, and that depends on how quickly we fill up this first cell. And by diverting a lot of the waste to either the C&D pit or the Stage 1 permit pit and recycling, we're trying to extend the life of that. But we would begin construction in roughly 5 to 7 years. And those cells would last probably 15 years. Again, it depends on, how much waste is diverted into those cells. So.
Thank you. Further comments by council? I have just a couple comments to make. As I've traveled to some of these WAM meetings that I've gone to throughout the state, and some of the seminars that were available to us, I've been asking a lot of questions of different communities and how they're handling, and by the way, it's a pretty hot topic throughout the state because of all the changes. But unfortunately, landfills and solid waste and disposing of our property is not what it used to be. Things have changed. They've changed in a huge way, because it's not as simple as just putting a liner in. It's also a liner and a drainage system and collect and so forth and so on. So it's a big engineering challenge. Thank you. I've asked other communities, and I've kind of asked them what their rates are and what they're basing it on and so forth and so on. Right now, we're going to be at around, I think, somewhere around $57 or $58 a ton. Okay? We have one large landfill in the state of Wyoming, and that's Casper. If we were in Casper right now, we'd have landfill fees of about $36 a ton. And it's very simple why. They're gigantic. And they service an area of about 75 to 100 miles in a circumference around Casper, so they're able to pick up an awful lot of communities that will take their stuff to that landfill. And it's economy of scale. Now, if you compare us to everything in the state besides Casper that has landfills within their community or have to ship to somewhere else, with the exception of Cheyenne, because Cheyenne has the ability to ship to Fort Collins at a reasonable rate, we are very, very competitive. If you look at Rock Springs, you look at Sheridan, you look at any medium-sized community, we are extremely competitive with them. The majority of communities smaller than us are $56, $57 a ton, or $57, $58 a ton is a bargain compared to what they have to pay. Many of them are paying anywhere from $75 a ton up to about $120 a ton. So it's insurmountable what it costs anymore to get rid of the stuff that you no longer need or that you need to get rid of. And we are competitive. It's just unfortunate that we're in a really rural environment. And we're in essence a medium-sized town in Wyoming, but a small town when you look at the overall size of communities. And we're no different than anybody else. We're having to pay a pretty high fee because of the EPA regulations and the DEQ regulations, and also because of the fact that things change. It's not a dump anymore, if you will. You can't just drop it in the ground and bury it. You've got to do a lot more sophistication, and you've got to basically take care of that landfill in perpetuity, which there's a cost that comes. So it's unfortunate, but in my mind, we're doing a good job when you compare us to other communities throughout the state. Thank you. Anything else from council? Anyone from the public wish to comment? City Clerk, would you do roll call?
Hanson.
Yes.
Henry.
Yes.
Shumway, absent. Schuster.
Yes.
Somerville.
Yes.
Vitale.
No.
Weaver.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Polikis.
Yes.
That's 7 yeses, 1 no, and 1 absent, Your Honor.
That motion carries. All right, on to item number 16, which is consideration of future council work sessions. Does anybody have anything on their plate?
Too much on my plate, Your Honor. Don't want to add any more.
Okay, sounds wonderful. Item number 17, I think. Item 17 is public comments on non-agenda items by sign-in requests, and we do not have any. So we'll move on to item number 18, Councilor Hanson.
I move that council adjourn to executive session regarding land negotiations.
Second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second by Councilor Henry. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? We are adjourned to executive session.